Well, hey friends, how about a reading from your metal dog to bring in the new year? Just feel like doing a reading for those of us who are going back to school this semester. There's a lot of questions about how this is going to go. So I thought it'd be fun to ask the cards about that. I'm going to start with an oracle card and then I'll set up a baseline reading here. And then we'll clarify and see what the tarot wants us to know today. Okay. I feel a little rusty. And also, if you watched some of those readings that I did after I survived COVID, I feel a little bit more grounded. I felt crazy. Okay, so here we go. The first thing we get is a great card for a new year, beginnings. Looking to the east where the sun rises. Yeah, so I feel like there's a sense of direction and that there are things that are coming to light. And I also see the kind of compass point. That's where I'm getting the sense of direction. And this person who to me looks like a woman of color who is able to access that. So that's interesting. And the sun is what I see, although you might just see like a golden kind of pentacle. There's a suggestion in here of an eye, but also of a pentacle. So if you're thinking about gold, the elemental metal is what comes to me, like the process of in alchemy of turning lead to gold. Okay, and then on the bottom we have bravery and oceans. So, and again, this is about moving out of a comfort zone. And I see this young person, so it resonates for me with the sense of beginning something new, with a sense of direction that's taking us into the unknown in some way. Okay, let's see what the tarot wants us to know. All right, well, let's see here. I want to do a spread that asks what we don't know and what we have going for us and what we are heading towards, what our challenges may be. All right, so the first card I'm going to pull is going to be about the present. I don't wish to ask about the past today. That may come up, but I'm going to begin with a card about where we are, what we have going for us, what our strengths are, what our challenges are, what's hidden from us, and what kind of outcomes. Oh, let's ask for advice. So we'll put in a card in here for advice, and then we'll look at the future outcomes in whatever time frame this is. So we're asking about going back to school, new beginnings, being brave, getting out of our comfort zone, a kind of alchemical process. When you go to school, you should get your mind broken. You should have it rebuilt again. That kind of exciting, finding a new sense of direction. And absolutely, you should feel uncomfortable. If you're getting a good education, you're being challenged, you're uncomfortable. And frankly, as a teacher, that should happen to me too. I don't know everything. I'm learning with my students. We're in a really important conversation. And that's happening here too on our Metal Dog Tarot channel. Let's see what the tarot wants to tell us about. All right, I'm going to put down a card for the present, a Prince of Wands. Wow, a lot of passionate excitement, ready to move, full of fire and willpower. Yes. Okay, what we have going for us, we have our intellect, the King of Swords. That wise king. This deck, hilariously, I always have to notice He is a bit of a man-spreader. Is he a man-splainer? Really, for me, this king, he's always looks so sad. In any deck I look at, I just see this guy. He's gone to war. He's used his mind. He has a very strong mind. But in doing that, like the Queen of Swords, she's good at cutting out. I always think of the king as gentler than the queen in that he seems to be connecting to the sorrow that comes from hurting people with your mind. And so that's a kind of wisdom that we see coming in here as a strength as we go back to school. Our challenge will be nostalgia, the Six of Cups, a time before, a time of innocence, our youth, our childhood. Very magical here, and these two friends who are sharing and their feelings, who are open. We're imagining the ship with butterflies here. So I'm I'm kind of emphasizing nostalgia for the past, for our childish ways before we get uncomfortable. That's kind of coming up here. Like when you go back to school, you have to get uncomfortable. And so you might have a wish for a time when you weren't uncomfortable, but when you were naive like a child, or some other kind of nostalgia is coming up here. So you have this wisdom of this old King of Swords as a strength. And I think after what we've been through, we all have some insight and access to some truths that we didn't have access to before. But we may also be feeling nostalgia. We may be wanting things to go back to the way that they were. And we'll see about that. We are riding this phoenix, which is the bird that rises from the ashes, born again, renewed, forward into action right now. And we got a lot going for us. Nothing too bad here. What's hidden from us is a Princess of Swords. This is the card of the social media. For some reason, I don't usually read it this way, but it's often read by tarot readers as being about the internet. Princess of Swords is curious. She's a chatterbox. And she is also one that is sometimes read as watching from through social media. So this may be something that, let's find out more. But that's going on in the background. Now we're going to ask for some advice from the tarot. Ooh! Nine of Swords. Card of, as you can see, anxiety, getting up in your head, insomnia. So this obvious advice when you get a Nine of Swords, it's maybe like, get out of your head. She's got a lot of creepy crawlies in her head. She's got centipedes in there. What else is that? Okay. Just bugs and worms and creepy crawlies in her brain. So that's not a pleasant place to be. So that's our advice. Get out of your head. We shall see. The future is, wow, this is great. Autonomy, security, a beautiful home, the Nine of Discs. She knows her worth. It's a beautiful future for us, those of us going back to school. So hang in there. We'll look and see what we've got going here through clarification. But the future looks very, very fabulous. I love how she's bald. And I can't help but notice that in our advice, there's like a lot of hair going on here, plus swords sticking out of her head. So this one has translated those thoughts into this beautiful piece of art, this manifested 3D reality that she lives in. She has grown flowers. There's a kind of springy feel after a dark winter here. And yay, I am looking forward to spring. Underlying is a tower. Five of Swords, the Chariot. Okay, there's a lot happening. This is the context for in which we go through this reading here. So there's going to be some kind of major surprise. It doesn't have to be bad. This one looks kind of scary though, with that eye up there. But the eye signifies, although it is a red iris on that eye, to me it's signifying like, oh, I'm awake now to something that I didn't see. I'm also noticing there's these same flames that this bird is flying out of here, are here with this tower. So that's interesting. In addition, speaking of the eye, Five of Swords. This is a card that can be read as realizing that you won, but you don't really like how you won. It doesn't feel good. And it can also sometimes feel like self-harm. But what I'm getting here in this tower and this Five of Swords is that it's like an aha feeling, like awake, really awake, and just seeing these swords cutting into this now green iris. Yeah. Well, we'll find out more. It feels like what you've done, the context here is that this tower, this surprise, there's light that's being brought to something here. That happens when you're getting educated. But what you can awaken to that's really uncomfortable is that you're in an embattled situation, which is usually like a Five of Wands feeling, is like competition and chaos. But because we see these other hands and they're all kind of attacking this eye, it's like this is what you're looking at is, and the swords represent intellect, the truth. They're not swords, but they are realizations of truth. Well, that's a really great Five of Swords here. You're awakening to something. You're coming to consciousness in that card with the tower. And thirdly, there is a maturing of, I learned this today from Mystic Witch Tarot, who I highly recommend. She talks about this in her Leo reading. But the Chariot, which is number 7 in the tarot. 7's a card of illusions, of resistance. What else do we have in 7's? Secrets and lies, and this kind of like getting stuck. So the other suits that are the number 7, it's a difficult number. And what I learned today from Mystic Witch Tarot is that the Chariot is a matured 7. This one is ready to move. There's all this momentum. There's clarity. There's the red represents willpower. There's momentum. The moons, she taught me today, represent that you have completed the exploration of the moon journey. There's definitely an awakening that is happening here. And it is pushing you forward into the 8s, into the next stage of your journey, which is quite positive. So I guess what I'm really curious about here, as I look at the bottom of the deck and this kind of surrounding energy, is what's going on? What is this tower? Is it climate change? Is it something that's going to happen or is happening? Is it Omicron? I'm not actually seeing anything other than that tower that makes me think that we should be afraid. In fact, the Oceans card here tells us to strike out, to get out into the unfamiliar territory, to travel, to go across oceans. For me here in the West and always growing up on the Pacific, I think of going east. And so here's the direction east here of a beginning where we look not to Europe, not to the West, but to Eastern wisdom, Eastern travel. That's interesting. That's interesting, and it's definitely something of which I am greatly unfamiliar, although the Metal Dog channel is talking about Chinese astrology. So I know a little bit about that. Okay, so let's clarify. Let's see what is going on now. We've got this Prince of Wands. It looks fantastic. It's very optimistic. It's very energetic and fast. There is a rebirth. And that definitely happens after the solstice, and we've got the days are getting longer. I can already feel the days getting longer. Is it just my anticipation? They are literally adding minutes. I think the sun is still coming up around the same time, around 7:30, but our evenings are getting just a little bit longer, get a little bit more time with the light. And so I definitely feel that sense of anticipation of riding forth into all of this golden promise of a spring semester. Let's see, what else? I need to shuffle this. I've been shuffling these all day, but let's see. Tarot the Old Path. Both these decks have been wanting to talk, and here we are listening to what they have to say. Okay, today we are beginnings, the Fool, just starting out on a new journey. Yep. There's a forward momentum. The Chariot speaks of this. Oceans speaks of this. What else? The Emperor. This is our structural power. This is like Mr. Alpha Male. Doesn't have to be a he, but it is like hierarchical structural power. He's looking backwards towards the past. The Fool is walking in the opposite direction here. Your cards are reversed, as you can see. This is a mirror image video, but so the Fool is walking into the future, and the Emperor is looking into the past. So going back to schools are institutions. You can have the administration, or perhaps if you're a student, you can feel like the authority of the teacher, and you know, I think going to school or even teaching, like to go into it like this happy-go-lucky journeyer who's kind of seems to be leaving behind quite a bit of drama as he takes off on this path, or she, towards the sun. Now I see the sun in both of these cards, and I definitely get that feeling of flying towards, this is forward again, and flying towards the sunlight, which is in the tarot happiness, authenticity. In a way, it's kind of like simplicity and letting go of all of the trappings of this Emperor. And thirdly, wish fulfillment. There we have the Star. Absolute wish fulfillment. She is one foot on land, which represents earth and your body and your home, and one foot in the water. This is emotions. There is, in the baseline here, we have like the cups are only coming up under our challenge. But the Star card, she's pouring out water, pouring out feelings into the water, onto the land. There's a sense of emotional fulfillment here. And again, a kind of travel imagery here that I don't usually notice. So we have like an astrolabe used for travel. We have a sailboat. We also see this, I've never noticed this, like a planetarium for looking up at the stars. So this is about traveling by the stars. So if you're interested in astrology, or you set your life according to the stars, as people interested in tarot often will, this says that you are going off on this journey towards wish fulfillment, and you are setting your path according to the insights that you have from the stars. It's really beautiful, and it reiterates this kind of compass, this sense of direction towards this golden very sunny place, right? So the sun is coming up here quite a bit at the beginning of our reading. And you're going off into the semester with a sense of optimism. It's exciting. You kind of have like a vision, but you're meeting the Emperor. And what I'm sensing is that kind of conflict that we can have when we get into the class and we see the syllabus, or there's what we wish for and what is. And so this can be tension when we go back to school. We go back into classrooms or onto campuses. There's like all of this heavy institution around education now. And even though I'm a professor, I feel that too. I feel there's all of this institutional pressure that interferes with my real mission as a teacher often. I'm also quite supported by my institution too, and I'm very protected in my freedom of speech and expression through tenure, of which I'm grateful. So, but it's a negotiation with structural power when you go get educated, or even when you're the teacher. Okay, so our strength here is the wisdom of the King of Swords. And I always think of his wisdom as being from his heart in a way, in that he, in witnessing suffering in the battlefield of ideas, he's a bit of a sorrowful king. This card is quite blue, airy, very intellectual, up in the clouds kind of knowledge. So he's a philosopher king. He often gets read as cold because I project my own. I'm Aquarius rising. This is King of Swords represents Aquarius in the tarot. And Aquarians are humanitarians. This comes from compassion. It comes from concern for humanity. And in the tarot, kings have concern for the people. All right, so this is the strength, and let's elaborate on that here with the tarot of the old path here. Okay, this is the future, the Nine of Pentacles, right? She knows her worth. This is a person who has, on her own, by her own talents, she has built a beautiful home. She is autonomous. This is your future. Okay, this is, so what I'm seeing here is that this King of Swords, this strength, is fundamental to getting you to the promised future of the Nine of Pentacles. There's some of the struggle and suffering that the King of Swords represents here in the Nine of Wands. This is a card about struggle. It's about being tired from struggle. You also have two nines here. The last number in the suit is 10. So you're maturing towards the completion of a Pentacles and a Wands or Rods in this deck, or fire, earth and fire. And thirdly, there is a Three of Rods. You're being helped here. There is, this is what this Three of Rods emphasizes. The Three of Rods is, in general, a card about you've manifested, you've envisioned, and now you're waiting for it to come in. This particular one shows that this comes in with help. I think that's important here. Yeah, I want to keep pulling cards here to see what this strength particularly is about. It looks to be going on your path here. That and we also have the Nine of Swords is under your advice, so a third 9 on the table. Wow. Yeah, the only missing 9 is the Nine of Cups. But we do have the Star, which is synonymous with the Nine of Cups and wish fulfillment. So let's keep looking. Not totally 100% clear what the story is here with this strength, and I will come back to it as we keep pulling cards. Okay, Six of Cups. So we're going to clarify this. This is your challenge, which I see as like nostalgia for when you were a child. It can also be a card about like a soulmate connection or inner child work, because we're thinking about going back to school. I was talking about the kind of feeling that sometimes my students express of like wishing that they didn't know the things that I have to teach them, and I am getting that kind of here again with like the Tower, and then the wide awake. Oh, wow! I wish I didn't know all these truths. Kind of expression in this eye, and like I said, that's how it should feel to get educated. So with this, we have the Knight of Cups. The true-hearted knight. So again, more emotional message, a message from the heart. There's an Empress on the bottom, or the High Priestess on the bottom. Yes, another emotionally satisfying message. This is what your weakness is. And wow, a Two of Cups. I don't know if this was a different kind of reading. This is very romantic, right? Okay. Lots of emotion, new love, divine love, soulmate stuff here. So this is all cups. So you're feeling a lot. You're having feelings. And you're in school, or you're trying to teach school, or whatever. You're going back to school somehow. That's the reading. And I think that in the past, our feelings haven't been welcome in the classroom. In my classroom, our feelings are really becoming more and more important. We're looking at slavery, we're looking at colonialism, we're looking at gender history and sexuality. And so you would need to notice that you're looking at incredibly violent and traumatizing events at times. And so you're going to have emotional responses to that. And so when I've had students tell me that what I'm teaching them breaks their hearts, and I have had students cry in class, it's taken me a few years, but this has become fundamental to my approach to teaching. Is like, let's invite these emotions into the room. Let's learn some skills for like tapping across your body can help you. Scientific evidence that this works. Breathing, we sometimes do things to ground ourselves emotionally as we go into the classroom. And when we do that, when we welcome the heart into our educational process, it's not a weakness. It's a challenge that we can invite. And I think that this is a reading so far that's very much about inviting the challenge and learning from struggle, and supporting and helping each other with the wisdom that we have acquired in this time. We've been quite on our own. We've been very solitary. We have been struggling. We are wiser for it. And we can actually, I really see this hand reaching up to take this offered help. And a wand, it represents willpower, fire, an idea, a passion, an opportunity, creativity. And in our challenge, it's our emotional, it's the challenge to our hearts of what we're learning. And if we receive that as the gift that it is, instead of disavow it, then we can have the meaning of this card in this larger sense can be justice, equality, that we can have a meeting of equals who offer one another, even in the educational context, their cup, their heart. So I love this as a challenge for us to not pretend that this is all a head trip. It has never been possible for me to disengage my heart from the history that I teach. And why should we? Okay, so let's see here. Objectivity is a myth. Advice. No, hidden from us is this little Page of Swords, Princess of Swords, the little chatterbox, the little social media representative, curious. I do see her kind of very holding the diploma there very lightly. And a lot of the times in my classes, my students are quite well educated in ways from social media. Like we get a lot of TikTok being cited in my classes. I love it. I think it's wonderful. We're kind of working in my classes on creating websites and infographics and using the tools out there, even Wikipedia, to strengthen our minds and strengthen our emotional work towards justice here. That the King of Swords knows that we must work towards a compassionate, heart-based, a meeting of mind and heart here. And so let's find out more. So I don't think of social media as negative, but I do often feel challenged as an educator by some of the horrendous garbage that is also out there. And I don't worry too much about it. Like, I'm not teaching facts. I'm teaching how to critically analyze facts, how to tell the stories with the evidence that we have available to us. And if I center the heart, if we center our idea of being good-hearted people in the process of education, like, there's no fact out there that can disarm the heart. It's whatever the fact, I don't care if it's true or not. Let's put it towards a good-hearted purpose, like a just society where the earth is treated with kindness and respect, and where humanity is open to creating a livable world for everybody here. So let's see. Tarot says we need to know about this Princess of Swords. Let's find out why. There's the High Priestess. There she is, very much in the natural world. I love the black cats, often with the Queen of Wands in tarot cards, referencing that manifestor. But the High Priestess is the intuitive knowing, the spiritual. There's a rabbit and a snake, both referencing, in my iconography, these three animals reference, for me, Durer's image of Adam and Eve, the fall of man. I see also a butterfly, which is making me think about these butterflies here, the kind of, so that's a part of our challenge, right, was this nostalgia. And there is here with the tower, with butterflies, a possibility of transformation. This, I said, is what should happen to you when you're getting a great education. Snakes represent transformation as well. Okay, what else? I love that card. Okay, then we get the Seven of Cauldrons. I mentioned this because we got the Chariot, that maturing of seven. So this is illusion, projection, choices. And what else? Juggling, Two of Pentacles, this kind of balancing act here of this acrobat fool. So this is very much like the court jester. It makes me think back to our fool here setting out on the journey today, going back to school. Well, it's a little bit like what I was getting at before, which is if the tarot wants us to be aware of the power of social media. It has the power to connect us, like the High Priestess can, like across time and space intuitively. And it has a great capacity to actually put us into magical spaces. There's even a unicorn here in this image. So it has the potential for that, but it also has the potential to distract us with illusion and to take us away from, to muddy the water. So you can see like there's a lot of, there's not clear water. You can't actually see underneath the surface because it's all disrupted and disturbed, right? So there's also that potential within social media. And so we can feel how this one is a little bit up in the air and this one is grounded maybe, but there is a kind of tension between how we use social media that is being brought to our attention here in this reading. Okay, this is our advice. Get out of our heads. It's not a nice place. The heads are full of creepy crawlies. What else? Okay, there's that Ten of Pentacles. This is often comes into me of like how things should be, an ideal. It can get in our heads. But let's see. What else came up here? Temptation. The devil. This is the typical head trip right here. And what else? The Empress. Oh. The Empress is so much like the High Priestess, right? Like she's an abundant, nurturing earth goddess. Here, I see birds, another butterfly, another bunny rabbit. She is the feminine. Okay, so let's see here. Well, this is, again, like a slightly romantic message that you could take from this. It's like, it looks like it's an emotionally fulfilling possibility here with the Empress. So we're getting, you can see these two couples. One is really an ideal in the tarot, the Ten of Pentacles. It's very abundant, rich coupledom. But here we see in the Temptation card that this can also take us down into our deepest, darkest fears, the things that keep us up at night, like this poor Nine of Swords, whatever is troubling her. So there's a tension between these two couples, the ideal of the Ten of Pentacles, and then beneath it, I feel temptation, this possibility that it can really disturb you and bring up your fears and doubts. The Devil card is about your insecurity, addiction, codependence, your sense of lack, the stories that you have that you can't do it. And I feel like this is actually coming from an idea of coupledom. So an old idea, right? And we kind of have this coming up here with a nostalgia for how things were, how they should be, how they were in the past. That this might be haunting you. The advice is get out of your head. Don't believe the devil. Don't believe the stories that you're not good enough. You are the Empress. You are abundant. You are of earth. You are an earthling. You deserve a great livable existence. Again, I'm not seeing Omicron being an issue here this semester. I'm very happy. I actually see Earth here, both in the High Priestess and then again in the Empress. The planet, our planet, I see is renewing itself. And if we look at where we are right now, we're coming from this phoenix rising from the fire, like rising from the disasters, right? Here we are, we're beginning a new journey. We're walking away from all this drama. No offense to the mother and child who is sticking, like the baby is also the fool, right? Because the fool is charging off on a journey, and everybody thinks they're crazy because they just didn't pack enough luggage, right? So the baby learning the hard way here. This is what the fool does, and this is the people that worry about you, the fool. So you're charging off on this journey. Fire has been involved, right? We've got a tower. Maybe this is the tower that we've already been through, right? Because I see this fire. This is what we're in right now. This is the awakening here. This is our surrounding energy. But we move through a process of finding wisdom from struggle, from our solitude. And the wisdom is actually, about accepting help. And the challenge of our nostalgia for how things were, the pain of knowing what we know when we learn what we need to learn when we're in a great college class, or just in the college of life of the early parts of 2022, that we need not disavow our hearts, that in fact, we need to be bringing our hearts right into the learning process, and that this connects us very powerfully to Earth, and gives us clarity when we may be like confused and quite disturbed by a lot of the messages that are out there in the social media sphere. Some of these messages, the advice of the Nine of Swords is telling us here, this poor girl. I wake up in the night and it feels like somebody just stabbed me in the brain, because I totally get what the Nine of Wands or Swords feels like. And then it's just like, there's really nothing real. It's just a bunch of creepy crawly dreads that came from out there. Like I probably shouldn't have read the news or something. So that it's an old ideal, like represented by the Ten of Pentacles. The Ten of Pentacles for me, this is very much like the Emperor, institutional, old-fashioned, traditional. This is a very heteronormative story here. What it's doing is it's actually causing you to feel like shit about yourself, when in fact you are this beautiful Empress. And in fact, we're not alone on this planet. We are, thankfully, we are living on a network of roots and fungus and energy. We don't even really understand completely. Like we are all reaching back for traditional knowledges of non-human beings and their consciousness and their ability to heal and communicate and guide us. And we need help, right? That's what this is saying. We need help. This is a strength to ask for and accept help. I feel like our planet is here to help us, and it is beyond our comprehension. And it will help kind of clear away the old structures that are torturing us, frankly. The Nine of Swords is torture. Okay, and here we end up in the future in a beautiful home. All of this that is growing here, very earth, very empressy. I mean, the Nine of Discs is very much an Empress card, and we've got her here as well. Right, we've seen her twice. Nine of Pentacles. That's your future. Let's see a little bit more about that. Future. What can we know? We've awakened to something. But rest assured, the High Priestess and the Empress are here. Okay. All right. What do we want to say? There's the Queen of Pentacles, the other earthy, knows her worth queen. She's like the Nine of Discs grown up. Okay. What else do we have? The Queen of Cauldrons. There you are with your good heart. She is open. She is deep. She is mature. Right? Wow. You are a queen, my friend. It's not about you being a woman, although, but it is about your feminine, nurturing Empress here in the future. Your home, this very 3D, earthy, and karma, death, transformation. It's another card of Scorpio. So like the Tower, I'm quite comfortable with it. But wait, I'm sorry. Karma is ascension. It's judgment. My apologies. Death is something else and even much creepier. This is also a card of Scorpio. Karma. So if you have done your work, you will rise to the next level. That is definitely coming through here. This is a great back to school reading. What it tells me is like what I've wanted to hear. So I didn't want to be worried about Omicron and afraid of you. I want to go back into the classroom and, continue to be wise about how we interact, but have an incredible transformative learning experience. We know that opens our eyes, that where we employ the wisdom of our hearts and our minds, and that we get to feel the earth and the presence of earth and the kind of wisdom of the living world. That's a part of what I want to bring into all of my classes now. And it comes from doing these readings with you in parts to set me off on an amazing journey of studying the history of the occult, but also studying Druidry as the kind of next step in the process that led me to study the tarot. Wow. And there is, our underlying energy is the Four of Rods. This is another image associated with the Six of Cups, which is here, the Two of Cups, which is here. The only cards missing are the Ten of Cups and the Lovers. But this is an image. This is actually my favorite. It's a party with the people who get you. And that is what we get to go into this semester. We get to go into the four-cornered, the Four of Rods. It's like there's four legs on the table. There's four legs on a chair. It's stable. And because it's safe and stable, we get to be ourselves in it. We get to take risks. We get to be uncomfortable together. We get to open our hearts and our minds together. One last story. A few years ago, I went into a classroom that wasn't safe. There were people in there who had been trained to cause trouble in college classrooms. And this reading reassures me, because I'm afraid every semester that I'm going to get the death threats again and the angry people in my email and on my voicemail. But this reassures me both about Omicron's not an issue in this reading, and this is a safe place to be ourselves, to expand, to be brave. This is a brave space that we enter into. We get to go into the worlds that we do not know. And there's something here from the Pacific, from the East. Really important, beautiful light coming from the East. So whatever that means to you, it makes me think of one of my Leo friends, actually, who teaches me quite a bit about Buddhism. It's definitely the direction whether it's the East Coast or East Asia, I'm an ignoramus. I have much to learn from there. So there's new beginnings coming from the east. And it's funny because across the Pacific Ocean is actually the west. But when you go west, you get to the east from here. So that makes total sense to me. And my apologies if it doesn't make any sense to you. But thank you for watching this reading. I hope it has reassured you and kind of given you some ideas for how to go forth into 2022, into the new semester. All right.